It's another IPL classic, one for all time. The Rajasthan Royals thought they had done it. Sandeep Sharma thought they'd done it again, as it turns out, in the most dramatic, almost Bollywood-esque way of ending it. A no ball of the last ball that breathed new life into a Sunrisers chase that had lost all life when Glenn Phillips, Heinrich Klaassen, Rahul Tripathi and Edin Markram were dismissed. Then Phillips and Samad between them have scored 42 of 14 and with a 6 of the last ball have caused the upset, if you could say the week, if not the tournament. Looking at where these two teams were, looking at where the Rajasthan Royals were at half-time, you say this is a massive upset. But well done to the Sunrisers, and they have picked up the points and resigned Rajasthan Royals to now 1 win out of 6. The wheels are seriously coming off for the Royals, and we look back at what the impact of this kind of loss would do for their top 4 hopes. All that and more on Visit Saudi presents ESPNcricinfo T20 Time Out. Deep Dasgupta and Tom Moody, who has been in a Sunrisers dugout, a Punjab dugout, seen many a close game. Has he ever seen something like this? No ball of the last ball to completely turn the winner and loser of this game.
To be honest with you, I have been in a lot of dugouts, and I've watched a lot of T20 games. Well, I don't think I've ever seen a no ball off the last ball and then turning the fortunes like that before. So all the cricket that I've seen, that's the first for me, I think.
That's a lot.
Can you remember anything like that?
No, I can't.
I can go back to the Zimbabwe-Bangladesh game at Brisbane in the World Cup, where they all came back after they went off of a no ball of the last ball, but it didn't change the fortunes of the team. That's the closest. I can't think of anything in the IPL which has been no ball last ball. They come back, he has another crack at it, and he smashes it for 6 in Abdul Samad.
All I can say is, thank goodness we do have the ability for that no ball to be checked.
What a good call that is,
Because in the past we've seen the odd error on the front foot, which I don't blame the on-field umpires historically.
But that's how much it matters.
That's it.
Yep.
That changes someone's campaign completely.
Yeah, there's an RCB-MI game which became notorious after Lasith Malinga stepped over. Ever since then, we've had the technology, and thank God for it. But let's start with Abdul Samad. There are many pieces to this. Samad, Phillips, Sandeep Sharma, Yuzvendra Chahal, before that Sharma and Tripathi. But let's start with Samad. This is such a big innings, you think, personally, for him. One shot that could perhaps change his IPL fortunes.
Absolutely, and confidence as well. Because obviously he's been in that position for a while. And actually we were discussing, and Tom said the fact that he hasn't been playing regularly. But yeah, I mean, he's been around. He's supposed to play that role, come and finish off games. But this is a huge one for Samad. I think someone who spent a lot of time there, who's got the potential, who's got that talent. But I think this one shot, this one hit of the last ball can change his graph from here on.
I would love for your thoughts, how much time you spent with him, the fact that this was a surprise retained uncapped Indian player for the franchise. I'm presuming to be retained for exactly this kind of situation, hit a 6 of the last ball to win them a game.
Well, I'll question the fact that you say a surprised uncapped player, because what Abdul Samad has got as a young emerging player is a rare ability to hit the ball out of the ground. You know, to me, he reminds me of a young Yusuf Pathan. He's got that sort of strength, power, and it's a very hard role to play.
Yes.
You mentioned about this giving him the confidence to go forward, and for his career now to gather some momentum. I think equally, if not more importantly, I hope that it gives the management and the franchise confidence that they have got the right person, because that is the hardest part. Forget about the player having confidence. You need the organisation, wherever you are, to have confidence in you. And I think if you look, at his, I suppose, erratic selection over the last 2 years, I think that hopefully this is a turning point for him.
You wouldn't be responsible for any of that erratic selection, would you?
We'll move on.
All right. I would like for you to give me some insight into the temperament of Samad, who would have been heartbroken that he couldn't finish the game against Chakravarti just a few nights ago, and would have felt for a few seconds that he's failed to do it again of the last ball. And for him to then get himself together amidst the chaos and line up what is a successful, prolific bowler that did this season in Sandeep Sharma and absolutely cream it. Now, is that Sandeep missing it? Tell me a little bit about Samad too, and how he works up there.
Well, I think if you get the chance to relive, which we will do, I'm sure, because it'll be in the highlights reel as one of the highlights of the week. and look at his emotion after he's hit that six. You know, he's quite
stoic.
Stoic in his, that's a nice word, stoic in his acceptance of the victory and not overplaying it.
Yeah.
He's not charging off with his bat in the air. You know, he's a very humble and you know, quietly spoken guy. But behind all that is someone that works extremely hard at his craft and constantly trying to improve on his game in a role that is exceptionally hard to play. And more often than not, you see your mature end players playing in those roles, not a 21-year-old. You know, Abdul Samad's 21, and we're judging him on his history as a 21-year-old. Let's judge him on his history when he's 28. You know, and then sort of make judgment to whether he's consistent in one of the hardest roles to play.
That last ball, Sandeep Sharma got it dead right to MS Dhoni. Did he miss here, or has Samad made something out of it?
I think he's made something out of it. The idea was to go wide Yorker. I think he may have missed the length by not much, but that was enough, I guess. But then my question is, you mentioned a few individuals, the captaincy bit. You know, bowling the 19th over, Kuldeep Yadav bowling the 19th over.
The game, in fact, came back to life in the 19th over. Otherwise, it could have been too much for anyone in the last.
I think the biggest talking point...
Right, let's go to that.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest talking point would be utilization of Obed McCoy, 1 over. 19th over, you've got Obed McCoy, who's a death over specialist. He doesn't bowl the 19th or the 20th. And the 19th over was the crucial one, isn't it? And you get a youngster to come in and bowl. And that was baffling as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I thought it would be either Sandeep or Obed to bowl that. I mean, 19th and 20th.
I'll add to that. I'll 100% agree with what Deep's just said, but I'll add to that. The baffling over for me, before that played out, straight after the strategic timeout, I think it was the 14th over where Morgan Ashwin bowled. And Chahal had only bowled 2 overs at that point. Generally after breaks, you want to set the tone and take control of that moment. Whether it's a test match straight after lunch, you want your best bowlers bowling, or after tea, or in that situation, timeout, you look at what you've got left. You've got Obed McCoy, who hasn't even bowled an over. So the options for that over would have to have been Chahal or Obed McCoy. No one else on that list needed to bowl that first over after that strategic timeout because they had the overs to burn. And they are the specialists. So that over went for, I think, 19.
That is right, with 2 sixes and a 4, 2 full tosses.
And that changed the momentum of the game. The game was done at that point, close to done at that point. That changed the momentum of the game.
Okay, you pointed out 2 points here, but I guess some thrilling T20 games have many overs and moments where it ebbs and flows.
True, but this was quite obvious, isn't it?
I'm talking about your point, 19th. I take Tom's point entirely. And if Klaasen and Tripathi had seen them over, I'd say that, that's a terrible mistake. But they brought themselves back into it.
But particularly when you've got Klaasen, who everyone has talked in the IPL is such a brilliant player spin. And Tripathi also is a very good player spin. So
I'll take the common element with both your points, which is, what is your thinking behind the impact sub? Right? He could have bowled over 14, which would have given him his only chance to bowl 4. It's unlikely, but Dhoni uses Patirana like that.
True, but the idea is you can't be getting any bowler in this format to bowl 3 in a row unless it's a new bowler. Right?
Even so, I'll give it that. You've not even given him a chance. I mean, I was curious that Hardik Pandya bowled 1 from Alzari Joseph this afternoon, in what's a bizarre coincidence on how impact West Indian fast bowler subs have been used. But you've used Obed McCoy then. You've given him 1 over where he's gone for 13. And you don't trust him with either the 19th or the 20th, which was the very reason that you chose him over maybe Jason Holder or Adam Zampa, whatever it was. So can you make sense of just the lack of faith in Obed McCoy?
I can't make sense of it. And I'll just give you a little bit of insight to what I think about that situation. You've got Obed McCoy, who had a good campaign from last year, was part of helping them get to the final, you know, with some excellent death overs that he produced. He's been out of the tournament up to this point, sitting on the bench. I think he carried an injury in the first early parts of it, but he's been up and running and working and ready to go for some time now. if I'm a captain or I'm a coach in that situation, I'd be thinking, well, it's really important that I get him into the contest quite early. So giving him at least an over in the first 10. So he's up and running, because when I do need him for his exclusive role, which is a defensive bowler, he's in the game. He's got 6 balls into the game. If that 6 ball goes, well, you might bowl 12 balls and then save the 2 at the end. But then suddenly to throw him at the ball at whatever over it was, the 16th over, was it?
17th.
17th over, and then not have the confidence to throw the ball to him again. Well, whose fault's that? It's not Obed McCoy's fault. You know.
And it didn't have to be for Ravichandran Ashwin. It could have been anyone else. It could be a Dhruv Jurel or someone. He could have come in a little earlier. Maybe even not bowl, just run around, just be part of the game. You know, get into the game itself.
Yeah.
He also had the option of, if he wants to kill the game, in a chase, you normally give your best bowler the penultimate over. You could have gone Sandeep 19 and tried to give 30 plus runs to maybe Kuldeep Yadav, who bowled 1 over at the death in what was a decided game, I think the CSK one. But that's it. So
there's another little subplot to this as well, is that Abdul Samad and the Sunrisers, not all of them, because there's been a bit of a turnover, but they're familiar with Sandeep Sharma because he has been a Sunrisers for many years. So there's a sense of familiarity there as well.
Is there at all any sort of, right, I've got Glenn Phillips there, maybe I'll not bowl over McCoy, who from memory last year had that one game against Rovman Powell where he goes for multiple sixes, the infamous one that saw Praveen Amre walk on the field. But I'm just trying to think, because we all agree that that was a bizarre use of his bowlers. But is there any sense into why you've gone for the Indian seamer, who's at least played a game there, to bowl to Glenn Phillips?
It doesn't make sense to me, to be honest. Because
don't pick him.
All right. Now, how about what he did bowl, though? Now, Glenn Phillips in that over did breathe new life in it. For a player who's been cold on the bench for so long, that's telling, impactful contribution, even if he had a couple of balls that a batter would want? Low for
you've still got to hit them, don't you? And he hit them a long way. We've talked about over the last few weeks during this IPL, I've sort of made mention, there's certain players that need little time given they're off the bench to come out and have an impact straight away. And Phillips is one of those players that he's an instinctive player. It's the way he plays. He sees the ball, hits the ball. He responds to what comes without even thinking too much about it. And he's got incredible power, and he's got also a great range of shots. For whatever reasons, he hasn't had his opportunities. But I think tonight he sort of showed that it's a bit like Klaasen, that these guys can turn a game very quickly. But he'll be disappointed it wasn't him that actually finished the job after breaking the back, because at the end of the day, that's 25 off 7.
That's striking
that's just flipped the game on its head.
And the ball he got out to was in the slot as well.
Do you sense that there's a pre-decided call on it'll be one of Phillips or Klaasen? And once Klaasen cemented his place, you never even thought of Phillips potentially replacing Brook until it really became a bit desperate for Brook?
Well, I think to be honest with you, I think the franchise and other franchises for that matter have been guilty of thinking the price tag is the noose around their neck. Instead of sort of forgetting about what you pay for someone, it's all around, what's actually happening, what output are you getting, and if you're not getting the output, regardless whether you pay 1 lakh for someone or 1,000 lakhs for someone, it makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. It's a case of, well, what are you doing, how are you doing it, and are you having an impact on our side?
The other thing with someone like Glenn Phillips is he's an impactful player, so he's not going to be consistent. So he did play a couple of games earlier on where he had to come out and bat a little early in
just the one game,
just the one game, right? And I don't think he got too many runs.
8 or 6 in that.
So you've got to trust these guys. You've got to trust them to come good. Not consistently, but when they do, they play something like this. And you've got to be. There's a good chance next couple of games he won't score runs. But then you've got to still stick with players like that.
I found a nice moment where he walked back, and there's obviously a reception for 7-ball impact innings like that. Harry Brook had a bit of a smile on it as well. Like it was a nice moment where he probably went, I've not been able to get one away after that Kolkata game. It's nice to see that you have. But I guess this could very well be the overseas batting combination they stick with now, with Klaasen, Markram and Phillips.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I still think that that may be settled, but I wouldn't put any guarantee on it. But the one that may look to change is the Marco Jansen, and whether Faruqi is a better option, because he seems to have been sidelined very quickly, and he's got an excellent record. Excellent record, and what he can do is give you a little bit more support at the back end of the innings, because he's got great defensive skills.
All right, let's talk about other moments in this game where it felt like Yuzvendra Chahal had brought them back. If you want to call the Klaasen Tripathi partnership as one that Tom Moody rightly points out changes the momentum, but once Yuzvendra Chahal, who obviously was in a different role, Deep, and we've seen him in this role before. He's one of the most entrusted spinners to bowl 18-19, and that over with 3 runs, 3 wickets. He's now level with Dwayne Bravo, I think, so he's nearly got the all-time record to himself. Or
He's absolutely brilliant. I think someone like him, I think his biggest asset is his heart. You know, being able to bowl in different situations.
He's brave.
He is extremely brave. I mean, and anyone who's got a record like that at Chinnaswamy has got to be brave, right? And so once you have a record like that in Chinnaswamy, you can bowl anywhere. I mean, this is like a huge field for him after spending so many years there. But I guess his biggest asset is his heart. He's obviously smart. That's besides the point. He's got the skill set. That's all said. But to have that kind of a heart and be that brave, it's absolutely brilliant. I mean, again, the ball that he got Klaasen out, the floater outside off stump. Come on, I mean, what was that? 79, 80 kilometers.
It's still reaching Klaasen.
So that's unbelievable. That guy, he's brilliant.
And this is knowing that the opposition batter has a great record against him, and he's been hit for 6. I've seen Murugan Ashwin many times in the IPL where if you get him for 6 in the first ball, you'll probably get a few more out of it, which we've seen before. Not to compare the two, there are different stages of their and different leagues, but Chahal is the benchmark, I guess, of how spinners ought to bowl even when they're under the pump.
And yes, absolutely. And I really admire him as well, because he's your traditional spinner. You know, you've got your Rashid Khans and your Imran Tahirs and your Bishnois and all these bowlers that have been hugely successful and will continue to be successful because their angle is towards the stump and their real weapon is the wrong un, where this is more traditional leg spin with a good wrong un as well, obviously. So he's sort of in rarefied air when it comes to being a specialist traditional leg spinner.
All right, let's talk about the contributions at the top, because I guess they go a long way in keeping Sunrisers in the game. Tom, you said the door's marginally open in our mid-innings show. And if you look at that scorecard now, it almost seems like what a brilliant, brave call to send in Anmol Preet or to change the top order a little bit without the baggage, and they've all got runs. Abhishek Sharma's innings and Rahul Tripathi's kept them in it. Take me through the top 3 and how important their roles were.
Yeah, look, they all played a role, didn't they? They set a solid foundation for them to chase down a big total. And again, it just shows you the continuing growth of Abhishek Sharma, and it just makes you wonder why he was mucked around in the first part of the tournament, because he's up there with the rest of the young, exciting, top order players that India have got on offer. Yeah,
there's a lot of belief outside. I'll just put it out there that he was injured in the early parts. It was never mentioned by the franchise, but it was a theory by fan pages that Abhishek was injured. We're not
So when he came back, he was in the middle order. Somebody who was got so much of success.
He played the first game though, so I think we'll just gloss over that.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, he is something that should be a no-brainer.
Yeah, look,
at the top of the order.
He naturally goes at a high strike rate, just the way he plays. It's not an effort. He's just got the ability to break that, break the field in power play overs. Because he's got the stroke play, he's got the timing, and he's got the ability to lift the ball over the infield comfortably, on both sides. And once he gets in, he's a good player against spin, or even beforehand. If they want to attack spin early against him in power play overs, he's got the answers.
Yeah, I've got to come to that next. There are not too many Indian top order players, especially left-handers, who are as good or comfortable against spin. We've seen him take down Rashid Khan before. He was very good today against the spin of Rajasthan as well.
Yeah, I mean, because, I mean, obviously these guys, they play domestic cricket regularly. You get to play a lot more spin in domestic cricket as compared to international cricket. I'm not talking about the quality, but at least you regularly playing spin, so you're used to playing spin. And someone like Abhishek, who plays a little lower down in red ball cricket, so he plays a lot of spin. And again, he's one of those guys who is kind of old school the way he plays spin. You know, uses his feet and, you know, very good footwork against spin. Has got all the shots. He sweeps, he steps out, so he's got all the basics that you require. And I mean, it's quite baffling that he's been moved around, shuffled around. But anyways, he's a class act too.
Good luck moving him now. You think it shouldn't happen, but I wonder how the coaching would reflect from the Rajasthan point of view on today's fielding. It was the complete mixed bag. There was some brilliance from Jaiswal and Hetmeyer at key moments, and then you had Robert McCoy spill one. You had Samson a little sloppy, or very sloppy behind the stumps today. Can you explain the polarized sort of ends of fielding we saw from Rajasthan?
Yeah, I think they'll look at that as being one of the real issues to them being on the wrong side of today's game. They'll point at their fielding, and I think that comes with confidence as well. That, you know, they've lost 4 out of 5 going into this game. Now they've lost 5 out of 6.
Right.
So I think as a team, when you are on a bit of a losing roll, you know, those small things don't go your way. You don't take those half chances. The run-outs you throw at the stumps, miss the stumps, or hit the foot marks before the stumps and kick up and go sidewards or over the stumps. All those things don't go your way. You know, they were sloppy, weren't they? They were sloppy today, and they had their opportunity to close that game.
And now with this new rule of the new batter coming on strike straight away, that makes it that much more important. Think about that Obed McCoy catch. You know, it would have been a new batter in, but because the next one was bound for a 6, right? So you won't have the other guy coming in and playing. So, yeah, I mean, it's so important now.
Samson, the keeper, Deep?
He's generally good.
He just had an off day?
He just had an off day. I mean, again, that Rahul Tripathi wasn't the toughest of catches, even though it was down leg side. But I guess, you know, maybe he was thinking of something else. He wasn't focused just on that ball. That can happen when you're a keeper and a captain. There are times when you're thinking, who am I going to give the next over to? What am I going to do with the field placement and stuff? You might lose focus on the job at hand.
Okay. What kind of impact does this defeat have on the Royals now? They had won this game for all money in spite of whatever errors that came. The Sandeep Sharma no ball and now this. What kind of impact do you think this has on them?
Well, that dressing room will be devastated. It'll be very flat. It'll be lost for answers. I know there'll be a number of people sort of pacing around, sort of staring into space, sort of wondering, you know, what went wrong. A lot of people with their head in their hands, feeling accountable, responsible for errors that they may have had. So it's going to take a lot to lift them off the canvas, because they've been KO'd today properly, and they've been KO'd for 2 weeks. Because for a side that has been one of many people's favourites to be there at the end, they have certainly lost their way.
Games against Kolkata, Bangalore and Punjab to come. Do you see them making the playoffs?
It's not about those teams or those games. It's about how can they lift themselves up. It's not about opposition. They are a good side. Right? And in this tournament, I mean, you know, it's like a rabbit hole. Once you start getting into it, it's very difficult to get out of it. You playing back to back, you get back into a situation like that in the next game, and you start thinking and you start questioning yourself. And in this format, when you double guess yourself, you're going down. And that's where the challenge is for Rajasthan Royals, is to just get out of that rut right now. And how they got to figure out a way, because this is not good. Again, they're still in the top 4. I think they're number 3 on the table.
They're number 4 now,
sorry.
Yes, to that point from Lucknow.
Yeah, and those 3 games, yes, they can beat those teams. Definitely, yes, going by, you know, the squad and their strength and how they've been performing before these 6 games. But the biggest challenge or the biggest fight would be within themselves in that dressing room rather than the opposite dressing room.
Well, what it's done is it effectively puts matters in your own hands for about 4 or 5 of those teams, because they all play each other, and Rajasthan have now pulled themselves closer to Bangalore, Mumbai and Punjab, where they were initially fighting Lucknow, Chennai and Gujarat for a top 2 or top 3 spot. So you have to now, it's all to play for on Tuesday with Mumbai and Bangalore. The winner goes into the top 4. Tomorrow, if Punjab win, they go into the top 4. That's just how significant the coming week is. Tom, as someone who called them as your pre-tournament favourites, are you saying now that there's a serious chance they're not going to make the playoffs?
I'm nervous. I'm a little bit nervous. But one thing in their favour is their net run rate. If you look down the right-hand column of that table, their net run rate is handsome compared to who is chasing them. So if we do get a situation where that 4th spot is equal points at the moment, they're well ahead of everyone else that's chasing them.
All right, that's a fair point. The Sunrisers, what does this win do for them? I'm sure they'd be counting the many things that have come together, but is this the kind of win that could possibly turn their fortunes around, or is this a side still with significant holes in it?
I think it will certainly give them enormous confidence. There's no question about that, because they've gone close a couple of times and fallen short. I'm sure that they will draw some confidence with this, but there's a lot of learnings as well that they'll draw from it. And what's going to be interesting again is what we're going to see next game with regards to how they shape their side, and whether this is the side that they feel can win the next 4 games and give them a chance to qualify.
They've got 6 days. It's a nice 6-day break to dwell on this result.
Oh,
but
maybe
they've got
not.
Lucknow,
Maybe
Gujarat, Bangalore and Mumbai. Yeah, you're saying maybe not.
I'm saying maybe you want to play as soon as possible after a game like this. You
Yeah,
don't
absolutely.
want to play it after
You want the ball to be still bouncing.
I want to end exactly where I began. I still can't get over Sandeep Sharma bowling a no ball, because from memory, I don't remember him bowling a no ball. He has this fairly limited stride when he gets in. He's almost well behind the crease at times.
It's pressure. When you're under pressure like that, a bowler will overstride. He'll run in. The tempo of his run up will be a little bit more upbeat. The adrenaline's running through his veins. It's that's the nature of the beast. He's striving for. When you're bowling a Yorker, you're always striving for a little bit extra pace. So therefore, your stride length is longer at delivery. All those things add up to, what's the noise of the no ball?
Oh,
I'm not going to do it. But
I was trying to set you up then. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. To be fair, he did it. He had done the job, he thought. And he had to do it all over again.
Yeah, that's shattering. And that's the other thing is that to have to come back after having that feeling, I've secured it.
Yeah.
And then there's that delay of 5-10 seconds, and that siren goes again.
He's done everything right. He should have had Samad caught. It wasn't to be. Sandeep's night. Cricket is at times a cruel game for a man who had his shining moment at the Chepauk against Dhoni. It somewhat levels out against Abdul Samad at Jaipur. Right? That's pretty much a wrap. Would you call this the upset of the tournament so far? Just in terms of where the teams were? I mean, it's hard. There have been a lot of surprise games.
No, I think the KKR game,
Gujarat.
I think that's impossible to beat.
Hard to beat that one. All right, fair enough. But a big thank you to Deep Dasgupta and Tom Moody for some terrific insight after a thrilling game, which continues to leave more questions than answers on who will finally finish in those playoff spots. It gets even more interesting. KKR, Punjab would have seen this game. They're in action tomorrow. Mumbai RCB the following day. All would have been pretty happy with the final result at Jaipur. Do join us tomorrow, 7 o'clock, just after the toss, for Visit Saudi presents ESPNcricinfo T20 Time Out. So there's a lot that's going to be said. So you can check out comments from Sanju Samson, the Rajasthan Royals camp, and everything written and said in the aftermath of this game. You know what? Before I leave you all, quite interestingly, the 7-ball cameo by Glenn Phillips has been awarded Player of the Match.
Oh, that's
which
cool.
is rare in T20 match adjudication. You know that the commentators, I think, still pick these performances.
But that's actually very good. I thought. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, the guy who moved things towards SRH was Glenn and that innings of his. So,
at the end of the day, who's had the biggest impact in sort of creating that win?
Yeah, that's a good call, I guess.
I'm guessing it's a rhetorical question that you're asking. Or
yes.
Okay. Yeah. So indeed, it is Glenn Phillips.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom Moody. Time to go home. That's pretty much it from us. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll hope to have your company again tomorrow. Good night.